Earth, a Love Story, Chapter 11, Part 2. Hypnotic Regression to Explore the Source of Grief, August 21st, 2021. Where are you? Standing by an ocean. It's blue and green. I've been here before. I'm wearing white. I have dark hair. It's like a split screen, so there's a very clear, earthy environment on one side, being a woman by the sea with a white village below down on the hill. The other side of the screen is dense, liquid, blue and green and purple. It's like the atmosphere is made out of water or something. I don't know what that is. What are you wearing? It's light and flowing, belted and simple. Nice. I'm middle-aged. Do you have a name? Arkel. There are seagulls, the ocean, the smell of the ocean, and there's a dark forest behind me. What year is it, or what historical time period? It's before when they counted years. Are you alone? What else do you perceive in the environment? There's a city, a white city. There are people there, but I'm alone here. It's very clean and feels like a place of royalty, or an important place where work is done, and the people there, they're closer to gods than humans. Evolved, I guess. Does the city have a name? Oh, it's a temple, actually. It's a huge temple. People live there. There's many rooms. Does the temple have a name? It starts with B-A-U, and then there's lots of S's and T's. I don't know what it is. I can go right through all the hallways and come to a space where there's a man, and I know him. He's important and we do work together. That's what's catching my attention. Who is this man? His name is F-L-O-R-E, like flower. He has dark hair and is really agitated about something. He's gathering all of his charts and papers and tools. He has something to do. He's gathering up all of his stuff because something bad is going to happen, or has happened. What's the appearance of the man? He has a maroon-colored cloth wrapped around his head and has long dark hair. He seems a little younger than me. He has, medium dark skin, and he's agitated. What's the work you do? We go out onto the balcony and see long patterns in the stars. I can feel something coming from across the ocean, and we're trying to hold a certain frequency or energy, a particular energy on the planet. We use the dense blue-green space we have access to, and we're trying to hold that, and we do work to try to spread it out from this temple and this land. And it spreads out a really long way. We're trying to establish that energy, that way of being. It colors everything. We're trying to extend it out and hold it there, but something's out there on the horizon. We can feel it. What does it feel like? It feels like disaster. It feels like a massive burning cloud that is spreading. How long have you felt its presence? We came here as children, and for a long time it seemed that we would be successful. It had established for a long time this energy, and it was working and successful, and we were aware of this other thing, but it wasn't dangerous. It was something we knew we'd have to deal with in the future, but we thought we could join with it or collaborate or learn and become one thing. So this that is happening now is new, it seems. It just happened. Who else knows about it? It seems like it's happening right now. There's just a moment when everyone who is like us at the temple and around the world are turning to look at it right now. Everyone knows it's happening at the same time. We have hours or less. What happens next? The man is trying to save the knowledge. He wants to put it somewhere really deep. And there's two things I want to do. I want to crumple down and just be with him and wait for it to get here and obliterate us. And I also want to see if we can hold it back. I want to do that work, or I want to just be with him until it gets there. But he's trying to gather everything up and find a place to preserve it, I think, so that it doesn't get destroyed. What do you do next? Well, he won't just stop and be with me, so I go out. While he's going down into really deep, almost underground parts of the temple, there's a rocky shoreline and there's underground spaces that are a part of it and part of the temple, and he's going down there to try to save this stuff. So I go to the balcony space, or wherever it is that we do our work, and I try to set up a grid. I try to push out that density, that frequency, that energy out as far as I can to try and buffer this place from that thing that's coming. I try to buy us time. Is it effective? It does not prevent it, but it creates sort of a little, protective pocket and shield. It's buried, it's deep, but it did help preserve a little of it. Most of it was obliterated. What's the knowledge you're trying to protect? This is so unexpected. It's so weird. It doesn't make any sense to me, but it has to do with music, and we were trying to set up a frequency, all of these repeating, or not repeating, but connected sort of amplifiers. They were holding a certain resonance. Music is the closest I can come to it. It's so weird because it's music and the density, the watery, thick atmosphere of that energy we use together. And I can experience it, but I don't know how to explain it. It's really peaceful. It's harmonics, holding a way of being. And we thought it was working. We thought we had done well to establish it. It was over a huge part of the planet, that harmonic that we were pushing out from that space that we had access to. We were holding that frequency, and there was a peace over a lot of the planet. How did you know how to do this? We brought it here from where we came from. We brought it here. We already knew how to do this. Where are you from? We've been around for a really long time. I don't know why this is so hard for me to say. We're from the Sirius star system. What are you feeling as that arises? I feel like it was the first time that I was evolved enough to leave and come to do this work. So it was the first time that I left, and it was so heartbreaking, such a big devastation. It started me on a big journey of trying to be of service. It was the first time my innocence and hopefulness and all of that was shattered, and it set me on a new path. I just started taking everything really seriously to do work and help. And then after a really long time, I left that system, and then I went to Cygnus, and I was there for a long time, and now I'm coming here. And this life was the first. It's just the first time I was devastated. I was just innocent. I thought we were putting this frequency in place. It was like we were setting up all these places all over the planet. It was working. It was establishing a frequency here. It was helping. I didn't expect this other thing to happen. The destruction. I was so open and joyful. I wasn't naive, but it caught me off guard, and it changed my journey completely because it set me on a path of making the most important part of who I am, having to help and be of service and do work. And I got really serious after that. What's the source of the destruction? It seems like a misuse of technology, and that they didn't intend to it to happen. It was like recklessness or arrogance, like pushing knowledge and capabilities just for the sake of seeing how far they could go. And they went too far, and they destroyed everything. Who are they? It feels like we both groups came to the planet. We knew of each other, but we weren't really communicating very much, and we're working on totally different things. We expected to have a happy, good relationship someday. We expected to meet culturally someday. We weren't worried about it. But I don't know, I feel like they came from outside, off the planet, but I don't know them. I'm just aware of them. Do you have a name for them? Where did they come from? I don't know. I'm looking, but I can't see it. Let's go back to the scene. What's happening? It takes some time. It takes like hours and hours to get through that field, that resonance that I established. It slowed it down, but it didn't stop it. It just sort of ate through it, and while it was coming, we knew we couldn't stop it. A lot of us went to the core of the center of what we were trying to protect, and we did work to try to intensify it as much as possible so it would not be eaten away. It looks like old film that is being burned and disintegrated, but we were able to project a field of dense space that didn't get totally destroyed, but everyone else was destroyed. We wait down underground where we are trying to store and protect this, and we are in a circle and holding hands, and eventually it just sweeps through and we're all obliterated, just blown and burned up and destroyed, and in an instant we die. That event bonds us, all of us. It bonds us together, and it creates the relationships and the common mission, and it turns us into a group that continues to do work together for a really long time. Are any of those from that group present in your current life? Yes, I know them all. There are some I haven't met yet. Here I list several people. I've removed their names from this transcript for their privacy. One of them is so hesitant. Not everyone always incarnates. Sometimes we guide each other. It's hard to say. Is there more to say regarding the hesitant one? She's really young and new. She's very evolved, but she's never been involved with being with any other world and dimensions. It's her first time doing that, and it's a little overwhelming, but she has the other 3 that help her. I can just resonate with her hesitance and fear and have compassion. She's still my guide. It's not like she's lower down or not evolved. It's just a lot for her to process. What happens next? After that happened, I left the Sirius system and I spent a long time in the Cygnus system. I don't know what to call it. The Cygnus reality or something. A long time there, and I was protected. It's a collective there. It's not the same level of burden and responsibility because it's a collective. So I did work, but I stayed safe. I wasn't so exposed. I was an individual, but less of one. I was buffered by that collective. I stayed for a long time. Why did you leave? I left to come here again, to Earth. It's important. It's an important time, and I just felt like I needed to. It felt really important to come here again. I've come a few times, but it's been few and far between. It's been a long time since I've been here. I came back because I wanted to help. What's the connection between this past life and your present life? I let my guard down. I was totally caught off guard during that life. And now I'm afraid if I let my guard down, I'll let something terrible happen. I'll be responsible for it, and I feel like the way to do the work I came here to do is to be unguarded, is to not be closed off. But I'm afraid that if I do that, I'll make a mistake. I'll miss something important and something terrible will happen. If you had known how to stop the suffering, would you? If you could have stopped it, would you have? We were naive. We didn't know any better. It snuck up on us. It was important to us, and we got caught off guard. We really cared, but we were having fun too. Enjoying it. It was joyful. Having never experienced it before, that devastation, how could you have prepared for it? I couldn't have known. If you could talk to her, to the one who couldn't have known, what would you say to her? You're innocent. You were trying to do a good thing, and you were on an adventure with a bunch of other people who all had the same mission, and you couldn't have known. It wasn't your fault. You've taken on this heavy burden all this time, and it's the most terrifying thing, but it's time to come back to that joy and openness and hope. It's a burden, and you've done any penance that needs to be done. You've been working so diligently, and now the cycle is changing again, and it's time to let go of that and become something different. Can she do that? I need a broader view. They're teaching me to travel, so as I move into joy and opening, I have all the information so I don't miss something. So I don't miss something and make a mistake, and I don't have a limited view. That's part of what I'm trying to do, to get perspective so I can be safe to do that. Has she anything more to tell us? She's evolved tremendously from that first journey. The journey was a huge source of evolution. She's saying that it was the initiating event of her evolution. There are also parts of her that don't feel guilty or afraid anymore, but it's very hard to be on this planet. She's evolved and strengthened a lot, strong and knowing what she's doing and why. She's saying that I am here, going through the journey of having that particular part of the evolution, of going from all that fear to a new space, but here to do it through physical form, this body, and this particular window of time. It's sort of like a reflection of everything I've gone through at a soul level. And now I'm very fully and deeply doing it in my physical form, and it's really hard. That's why I came here, is to go through every step of that. It's a part of what I'm doing to help that evolution. That's what I'm doing here. Anything else? In that life I had a child. The child, of course, died with us. And that's why I never had children again. Journal entry, August 31st, 2021. Today is the last day of my career. 15 and a half years. I'm so exhausted. Dream journal, September 6th, 2021. Dreamed I was crossing a river with Jupiter. He wanted to surf it. Another guy the same age as him came over to bully him. I used a surfboard to keep that guy away so Jupiter could have fun. The guy was young, angry, a bully, cool, rebellious, a punk kid. Jupiter and I got across the river, and Jupiter transformed into a little boy. His mother was there trying to hug and comfort him. He bore it, but felt smothered. He turned around to me and said, "Hey, thanks for keeping the bully away." We fist bumped. He loved that. I see every character in this dream as an aspect of myself. I am happy that the masculine was playful. I'm happy that he seems like a nascent, present, vital thing that has arrived in my psyche. Fist bumping the feminine who protects him. All of these dreams of the masculine fighting me, attacking me, these are all part of me. I'm sure of it. The babies, the infant boys and little girls. I don't know why I know this, but they are all parts of me. New parts are emerging or evolving or something. Journal entry, September 10th, 2021. There's a new energy wanting to come through. Feminine, familiar, and also not. It's coming up through the earth. She is present every day. She is rearranging me from the inside. I can't force anything anymore. The old structures aren't holding up. The ways I know how to do things aren't working. It's terrifying. So I decided to ask her a question. Am I safe? She speaks. Your fear does not keep you safe. In fact, it is an energetic beacon for those that would bother you. Your task is to have the courage to stop being afraid. Discernment, boundary is appropriate. Fear weakens you. Your power is rising. It flows along the path of the technology you were given. You think you've found your voice, but you have only just begun. You have to learn to wield your power, to let it flow through you. Your power is nothing more or less than life herself. The energy of life, God, goddess, divinity, seeking to express through you. Before it came to you from above and away. Now it is rising through the very center of your physical body. You must strengthen your container. This is why the animus is growing within you. Your etheric bodies are made of iron. You can forget them for now. Dare to fall to earth. Make good on your promise. Focus, child, on the ecstasy and miracle of life. You spend too much time bracing against a disaster that never comes. You cause more problems for yourself that way. Fall into love. Let life catch you. It will. Your power will not be violated. Get ready. Be who you came to be. Stop hesitating in doorways. The energy that's moving through you, let it. you are not alone. It will protect you. Remember all of the beings you have shown mercy and care to. You know them. They know you. Ant, horse, bee, wasp, snake, eagle, raven, magpie, bear, dog. They are all with you. You are getting your due. Journal entry, September 12th, 2021. I was reading about Inanna today, reading again a translation of her stories and hymns. I always thought of the Epic of Gilgamesh as a singular Sumerian story, as if they just wrote down one and that was it, the first hero's journey. But guess what? Inanna, queen of heaven and earth, they wrote down her stories too. She's glorious. What an amazing find to discover that the stories we wrote down 5,000 years ago are about the same things that I wrestle with today. It makes me feel both comforted and frustrated. Still, we're still doing this. Jesus. Anyway, Inanna hears the call from the great below and goes down into the underworld. How many times have I made that journey? How many times has Ereshkigal slaughtered me in her anger and grief? Reading the translation today, I realized when she went into the underworld. Yes, Ereshkigal's husband died, and yes, Inanna was going down for the funeral. But the timing. Inanna's descent comes just after she and Dumutsi have spent eons in bed together. They fell in love and fell into bed and spent verses and verses reveling. Verses like, "He laid his hands on my holy vulva. He smoothed my black boat with cream. He quickened my narrow boat with milk. He caressed me on the bed. He laid me down on the fragrant honey bed, my sweet love lying by my heart, tongue playing one by one. My fair Dumutsi did so 50 times. I mean, is it hot in here or is it just Dumutsi and Inanna? Eventually, though, he said to her, "Now my love is sated." Now he says, "Set me free, my sister, set me free. You will be a little daughter to my father. Come, my beloved sister, I would go to the palace. Set me free." At first it's all sweet as the sleep of hand to hand, sweeter still the sleep of heart to heart. Now he calls her sister and daughter and says, "Set me free." That's when she goes. That's when Inanna goes into the underworld to hear the call of her grieving sister. When Dumutsi returns her to herself and separates from her. That's the part I can never bear. It's happening now with Jupiter, and I don't think I'll survive it. Even after all this time and all I've been through, my highest desire is still to dissolve away from solitary cold duality and slip into sweet union and stay there forever. I know I can't. I know. It only happens in those fleeting moments where we do become one, the little death. But I don't know if I can survive the separation. I can't be all alone again. My life can't fall all apart again. The terrible ache as I imagine letting go. Journal entry, September 14th, 2021. I am camping in Spring Creek Basin in Disappointment Valley in western Colorado. It took me a while to find it. I drove out of cell phone range before I could map it on my phone, so instead I used a paper map and drove down 4x4 trails to dead ends and terrifying heights up and down steep ridges. Finally I gave up and got back on the main highway and headed towards Dove Creek. Up and over a hill, and the sun was getting low. Everything was glowing, and I dropped down and passed a sign, Paradox Valley. I turned left down a wide sweeping dirt road through a broad valley at the golden hour and stumbled into it. Disappointment Valley. Almost immediately I see a band of wild horses, and in the short time here have already seen several more. Sleeping in the truck was, as always, somewhat frightening. I prayed and offered a song and smoke to the local beings here, and felt the horses and thought of everyone I love and everyone who loves me, and it helped. I made it through the night and slept well enough. I dreamed serial dreams. I slept with my drum covering me like a shield. I played it softly to soothe myself. There were crickets, and I played it to their songs. This morning I walked 5 miles and I saw a dozen horses in a few little bands. These horses are not wild horses half domesticated. They are truly wild. They run from me even when I'm far away, and they would hurt me if I got too close. I love them. Dream Journal, September 15th, 2021. Early morning. Still camping. I dreamed of a man grooming a young boy. Pedophile. The boy said no just before the man was about to be able to have the dark experience he wanted. He pushed back against the man and the whole scheme, and that stopped it, and I also protected the boy and chased the man away. I woke up really uncomfortable, proud of the boy's strength, wondering if anything like that had happened to me as a child. Why? Why would I think that? Why does this make me feel panicky and terrified? Why does it make me think of that field in my parents' valley when I was way too young? Last night in the dark in the back of my truck, I told myself that it wouldn't matter anyway if that had happened to me, that I wasn't afraid. But I wonder, why am I the way I am? Terrified all the time, unable to feel alone unless it feels like a death I have to survive. Maybe it's just a product of my sensitivity and the beings who took me when I was young. But I'm 42 years old. When does this change? This trip to the desert to hear my own voice has been somewhat of a bust. What I have learned is that more solitude is not what I need, and job one is to rebuild and help my physical body. I need to move, become strong and limber again. She said I needed a stronger container. He said I should get back to the template of nature, the part of me that I was before, in the yurt. I need to get my vitality back, and I can't be alone anymore. I can't go on these journeys by myself anymore. My nervous system can't handle it. But I can't go home and be what I've been either. Jupiter and I will not have a picket fence and 2.5 kids, and I will not be a mom, and I will never be a normal person. I know the truth, that no one will ever understand anyone else fully. I will never fully be seen or understood. The loneliness of this life. This place is so hard, even when it's easy. Journal entry, September 15th, 2021. Night. My solitude in my journey to try to let whatever wants to happen to me happen is so excruciatingly painful. I pretend it's not, but it is. I've always been able to go alone, to burn down my life and start over, to bear the shattering and build it all from scratch again, to move houses and states and lose everything over and over. It's been a long time since I couldn't bear something, but I can't bear this. I can't bear letting go of my life and dying again, all alone. I can't seem to let it happen this time. I'm all too happy and ready to claim the gifts on the other side of the darkness, but I forgot how painful it is to get there. I can't seem to face another obliteration, so instead I am swirling here in purgatory, waiting, suffering. When did I lose my vitality, my swashbuckling, wild, down-for-adventure self? I used to be down for adventure and fun. Now I'm so afraid of losing everything again. But the truth is I already have. In fearing to become something unacceptable to Jupiter, I have become that and worse. I have lost myself and now have a choice. I'm already dead. I can either remain in purgatory or resurrect myself once again and surrender to living my life. Be alive and awake. I will never be safe forever. It's not possible to stay in Dumuzi's bed and arms and gaze forever. Maybe if I face my deepest fear and let go, surrender, finally totally break open, then the change will happen. Nothing can change in the state I'm in now. I know that. Journal entry, September 16th, 2021. I drove home. What am I so afraid of? I know I can't go through these depths alone anymore, so I tell my sister and my mother of my grief. No children for me, no normal life. I don't fit in and I never will. Jupiter's heart is breaking open and he can't bear me. The pain of separation. They tell me I'm not alone, and I'm amazed at how those simple words help me so much. My sister tells me she never understood how alone I felt, how scared I've been my whole life. Now she sees me. I hear the pain in her voice as she tells me. I hold on to her empathy like a life raft. I'm in bed. I'm falling asleep and dreaming and waking up to write it all down and falling asleep again. Jupiter pops his head in sometimes. Are you okay? Yes, I croak. He looks confused and nods and leaves. I dreamed of bears and a very pregnant woman about to give birth. When I'm awake, I feel crazy and lost. When I begin to write about it all, it seems like there may be some sense to what is happening. I'm falling apart and I don't think I can stop it. Jupiter doesn't understand, but he's kind. Period. He's kind, but he doesn't know me and I don't know myself, and the pain of that is suffocating. I can't explain it either. I don't know how. How did I end up in this town, an apartment and place? I can barely remember myself. I know I'm scaring Jupiter, crying in the corner, no vitality in my body. Wishing I was happier or more inspiring so he'd want to be around me. I am an uncomfortable energy that he tries to avoid. He can't say anything to me for fear that I'll start crying again. All of the things I felt made me a badass person are gone. I don't know who I am. How can I blame him for not knowing who I am either? I miss the fall days when I was a kid, gathering hay from the fields, the air all crisp, my blood and arms and heart pumping, working, bucking 70-pound bales of hay with ease, stacking them just so in the truck to get the most possible in one load. I miss that because of the certainty of it, the certainty of the task. We do this because it needs done. It was a simple equation. Chop and haul wood because the fire keeps us alive. Haul hay to sustain the horses through the winter. Harvest the garden and process food because food. In those tasks, I could rest because they made sense to me. My purpose was clear, and the byproduct of that purpose was a strong body and clear lungs and good sleep after a good hard day of work. I should be grateful for the ease in my life, but it makes no sense to me to go to the gym and run in place so I can be strong. For what? This representational life makes no sense to me, and I feel utterly alone in it. Dream Journal, September 17th, 2021. I dreamed I was at the house of my teacher and his wife in the mountains. The house and property were full of people and activity and chaos. We did some sort of ceremony together, and then he went on a journey. I stayed to help his wife. She was leaving too, but before she did, she brought me to a hillside. To the winter garden, she called it. She was earthy and beautiful and graceful. The winter garden was full of vegetation from the summer, but it was done and spent. It was full of finished sunflowers and brown, dried-up tomato plants and crispy-leaved marigolds. She showed me a wheelbarrow and some gloves and where I could dump the debris into a massive compost heap where all of the finished gardens had gone for years. I told her about my parents' garden and about their own giant compost heap. Before she left, she introduced me to a young man, maybe early 20s, very surly. He seemed to be a groundskeeper or something along those lines. He asked the woman how much she was paying me. She said $20, and he almost literally choked. He shook his head and shrugged and said, okay. He clearly adored the woman and would do anything for her, but he made less than that and thought I was being massively overpaid. Instantly, I was his enemy. I cleared out the winter garden while he watched, grumpy. He was in a big tool shed, and when I finished in the garden, I came inside and engaged him in conversation. He was angry, untrusting. Eventually, he told me about a woman he loved who had left him in a bad way, and that's why he didn't trust me. All women, to him, were untrustworthy. I moved around the tool shed and cleaned and organized and talked to him. I don't know what I was doing. There were boxes of car parts and stereo equipment and other random things I didn't recognize, and I moved them from one place to another, and it didn't seem to help anything. But while I worked, I talked to the man more, and he started to trust me and open up to me about his fear of the feminine. Finally, it was lunchtime and we sat and ate together. He had a microwave bowl of mac and cheese with a metal lid that he angrily half pulled off. Total bachelor food. I can't remember what I had, but it was some food of his that he had shared with me. I felt happy and close to him. We sat together and had lunch, and then I went back to the boxes and other things in the tool shed. I found some of my own artwork, long forgotten, and found an old frame and put the artwork inside and leaned it against some old books. Suddenly my teacher returned, exuberant. He was wearing shorts and something tied around his waist and big leather boots and a tank top and steampunk goggles on his forehead. He was leaping and dancing around, talking excitedly. He pulled me away from the young man so he could tell me something important about my journey, whisper it to me. I can't remember what he said, but it had to do with a project I was in the middle of. Then he went to talk to the young man. He told him he'd gotten him a gig as a personal assistant to a famous person. He would be going for 2 to 3 weeks. It was something the young man had been working towards, but he was scared and nervous to actually go. It was a huge deal for him to leave the safety of this place and teacher and his wife to go do something big and meaningful, even if just for a few weeks. He took the gig, nervous, excited. My teacher was so generous to help him, and I noticed that. Then I saw my teacher notice the painting of mine in his frame, and I half expected him to be angry at me for using that frame of his. I noticed that I actually always felt like I was about to get in trouble. My teacher saw the painting and frame and smiled, and there was not even a shadow of anger or judgment. He was still excited and full of life, jumping around, talking about I wish I could remember what. Finally, we sat down and looked out across the valley. He clearly loved this place, and it was easy to see why. There were artists and musicians and spiritual seekers roaming across the grounds, each working on different projects. A big, messy, thriving community of people, and he seemed to be fostering them all with his generosity. He told me as he sat there that he was looking for new members of the group, but that I need not apply. He would be making the choice based on a myriad of unknown, to me, criteria. He said it as if speaking not just to me, but to a collective of people, as if he had some special power to discern who got to stay and why, without even their participation. I woke up excited. Here, the young masculine isn't a tiny baby, a toddler, a teenager, a baby about to be born, as he has been for months. And now, here, a mature feminine sets me the task of clearing and cleaning the winter garden. Both my internal young feminine and young masculine are on a journey. I can only think that's a good thing. Dream Journal, September 18th, 2021. Last night I dreamed there was a crazy woman who was a mother to a precocious maybe 8 or 10-year-old girl. The woman was a hot mess. Booze, drugs, wild, untrustworthy, harming herself. Concerned with her waning looks and waning sexiness, worried about getting older. Her age was beginning to show beneath the veneer. The little girl had to grow up too fast because of that, but she was tough as nails. She did things that weren't age appropriate, and she sometimes came close to a line where she was self-harming and out of control too. But she was also mature, funny, self-contained, self-sufficient, clear-eyed about it all. The dream went back and forth between the two of them, exploring the relationship as well as the fallout from it. Mom drinking, cooking, cutting herself badly with a knife, and ending up in the hospital. The girl was aware of it all, but she was detached, a survivor. Both are me, internal and external, literal and metaphorical. Dream Journal, September 20th, 2021. Much of last night was spent dreaming about a serial killer trying to get me. I was able to get away temporarily by going to a friend's house. They were hiding me, but I knew I couldn't stay long. It was scary and annoying, dreaming still of being chased by something that wants to annihilate me. Maybe I should let it. Maybe I should pick up Women Who Run with the Wolves and read about the Dark Man again. After that, I dreamed a dark storm was gathering on the horizon in the distance. As I looked more closely, I saw that it was made up of ravens. Huge, gnarly, black, mean ravens. As I began to point that out to people, the ravens came into the city. The city seemed old with narrow stone streets and buildings obscuring the view. The ravens came into the city to feast on dead white birds. Right when the ravens came in, there came flying low through the stone streets silent helicopters and other flying machines that I didn't recognize. Like spaceships, but ours, humans. They silently flew, fast and on a mission. There was a woman in purple leading the charge. My mom and I ran up into the building, up to the 7th floor into an apartment. Just when we got in, there was someone at the door. I opened it and a man in a long purple robe streamed in with 2 or 3 others. It seemed like they were scanning the room. We tried to talk to the main guy in the purple robe and he engaged with us, but it was disjointed, creepy, the smile too big. His words were strange, as if covering what he was really saying to us with odd pleasantries that didn't match up with the bizarreness of the situation. I saw through the ploy and pushed everyone out the door. Once they were out, I saw lights flashing from beneath the door. I knew they had turned into their true selves. They were rattling the door trying to get in. I brought my mother over and told her to watch. I charged up my hands and used my magic to seal the door. The rattling stopped, but the lights were still there. Now that there was some boundary established, I took a deep breath and called on Christ and spoke an incantation, and the power flooded through my hands and fully sealed the door. Then I woke up. Journal entry, September 24th, 2021. The article came out. The Experience, The Cultural Rise of Alien Abductions and Those Who Encounter Them, by Ralph Blumenthal. Ran through a massive gamut of emotions. Total fear, panic. What will people think? Is this how I wanted my story told? I will be called crazy. People will find me, ridicule me, kill me. Once that adrenaline flushed through my body, I calmed down a bit and reoriented. What am I doing on this planet? What is the point of my life? I am here. I am sovereign. My experiences happened. Believe it or not, they did. So who do I want to be? A helper. Someone who is of service. I do want to help the world move from this eternal, endless bullshit suffering into wise, meaningful, worth it suffering that tastes like sweet medicine and feels like joy. What else is there to do? Where else is there to go? I'm here for it. Weird that the article came out today. My parents' anniversary, the day my marriage ended all those years ago, the day I drove away from the yurt, the day that so many things have begun and have ended for me. Dream Journal, October 2nd, 2021. The dark man again, trying to hurt someone, maybe me. I fought him off with a heavy metal fishing net. Later in the night, I dreamed of a small child, wet and bedraggled as if having emerged from the depths. I took him with me. I almost had an OBE this morning, but stopped it. It felt too scary. Dream Journal, October 17th, 2021. Dreamed about me and Jupiter in a small crappy hotel. We were moving out. I was waiting for him and packing while I waited. Concurrently, there was a serial killer, of course, isn't there always, who had taken a young boy. Only some small horrors had happened so far. It was leading up to something terrible happening. The mom of the boy and another woman were meeting the killer in a house to fulfill any demands because of the power he had since he had the boy. I walked into the meeting and the killer and the boy became separated for a moment. I scooped up the boy and walked out with him. It took a lot of effort on my part, and I wondered if it was the right thing to do. The killer followed us outside. He was totally naked and threatening. I got on the ground and covered the boy with my body. The killer loomed over us, talking to me, being creepy and scary, threatening. I fought him off with one hand, protecting the boy with my other hand. I fought him off with all my strength. It seemed to have a small effect, and I kept him at bay this way until a man came and arrested him. Journal entry, sometime in October. It's all been a blur. Jupiter and I broke up. It was exhausting. Grief, broken, excruciating. We love each other but are not on the same path. He needs time to be himself and figure out what that means. I need to be back on the land, back with nature. We sat on the floor of the kitchen and said goodbye to the us that couldn't be. We cried for 2 days, attending the funeral of our future. Dream Journal, November 11th, 2021. Dreamed wonderful dreams, then woke up and felt them, the buzzing and shifting. Met Jupiter on the astral plane. He received powers, became the, quote, superhero that he is, end quote. That's what they told me. We became equals. The sky became like water or plasma, its three-dimensionality. A bright, light beam shot out of the sky. It had a whale inside. I was told the ocean was seeded with whales to raise the consciousness of the planet. I woke up feeling an ecstasy and joy and love that lingered. It felt delicious. Dream Journal, November 17th, 2021. Dreamed of a big greenhouse connected to the dome. My dad was working on the greenhouse. It had a quadrant that was dug deep down into the earth. It revealed where the greenhouse met the house, and I could see a vent there. I asked my dad what the ground was dug up for. Did we need to do anything, or could I just fill in the hole? He said nothing needed to happen, but while it was open I could install a pipe so that air from under the house could have a place to go. I put in a big pipe and we began to fill up the hole with dirt. We felt little round, hard things falling from the sky and could hear them hitting the roof of the greenhouse. Butterfly eggs. We smiled. They fell into our hair and we went into the greenhouse and shook out our hair so that butterflies would hatch in the spring. This was a good dream. Journal entry, December 1st, 2021. The mantis being who contacted me back in the summer and told me to listen to the universal mind, and then all of the weird anomalous time stuff happened, and then I internally said, forget about it, I'm not going there, too weird and scary. That guy, well, he's been hanging around outside of my circle, my guides and ancestors and allies. I know he's there. I left it to my team to decide if I should talk to him, if, as he said, I would channel him. I've never channeled anyone and I'm pretty much maxed out at what I could handle in terms of weird shit at the moment. But he's been there, hanging out, so I decided last night that this morning I would wake up and do some writing and see what may come through. I had that intention as I went to sleep, and then this happened. Woke up, felt the buzzing, lifting resonance. I consented to whatever experience they were bringing me. I became paralyzed. I surrendered, lost consciousness, and then came to. A big bee flew up to me, loud and buzzing. To calm me, maybe, my bee guide assuring me it was okay. And right behind him was an insect of some kind. It was big, sort of translucent, gelatinous. It was long and narrow, maybe some light brown markings on its back. Otherwise a clear, gelatinous insect. But it was also mechanical, or technological would be a better word. It was both organic, alive, and technological. It flew right up to me really fast, almost aggressive, and before I could do anything, it burrowed into my neck and into my body. It went through the cancer scar on the left side of my neck, and when it did, I could clearly feel everywhere the cancer was in my body. My neck, my left trap muscle, and down into the left side of my body by my rib cage. It's like it all lit up. The insect went further down than that and settled into the left side of my torso just under my ribs. I jumped up immediately and was really freaked out. It was such a visceral, disgusting feeling. I talked to my guides right away and did a banishing practice and asked them to get it out of me, but they were totally silent. I got up out of bed and went down to the bathroom, the whole time feeling this horrible sensation in my body, feeling totally invaded. I got back in bed and tried to meditate, but had a panic attack instead. It was a horrible feeling. I can still feel it, actually. It's awful and sickening. My guides asked me to communicate. The buzzing came. I said yes, consented, and now this. I feel so suspicious and confused. Get this shit out of me. It feels awful. I decided this morning to do the writing anyway, or maybe especially because that happened. Did protection and then opened up communication. The mantis came through and told me that it didn't have to happen this way, but that's the timeline we're on. The trauma, cancer, scar timeline, so it happened this way. Showed me how timelines were woven together like threads that create our lives, and that there are several different timelines playing out at any given moment. Told me a bunch of other stuff. Told me that the afterword of this book would be a channeled message from him. I asked his name. He said it was Atman. I was instantly suspicious. Atman? Like Ant-Man? He said we would speak again. I immediately Googled the name Atman and scanned the pages that came up. A person's soul, true self, innermost self, the personal soul or self, the thinking principle as manifested in consciousness. I slammed my laptop closed. Journal entry December 21st, 2021. Winter solstice, afternoon. A guy on Instagram who I don't know sent me this random excerpt from a book. It really freaked me out. I thought about it the rest of the day. No explanation, just this message. What in the actual fuck? Do you guys know Jacques Kiel? This is the message. It's from Tom DeLonge's book, Secret Machines, Book 2, A Fire Within. I keep thinking about bees, said Jennifer almost dreamily. One hand had moved to the flesh on the back of her neck, as if she was looking for the place where the surgery had happened all those years ago. She was talking to suppress the sense of violation, of outrage, talking to stop herself shrinking away from the past, like she was cringing at the feel of a bug on her skin, buzzing around me. Keep dreaming of them. Golden bees. I keep seeing them. Journal entry, December 21st, 2021. Winter solstice. Evening. Meditated. It was a good one. I was feeling amazing, very present and aware, not thinking about anything or trying to do anything, just vibing in the goodness of it. Totally spontaneously and unexpectedly, I lifted up and out of my body from my waist up. At the same time, the cancer spot, the whole area that had lit up when that insect thing went into my body, that whole matrix, like a three-dimensional imprint of the cancer. It all lifted up and out of my body too. Boom, gone. Totally somatic. Unexpected, visceral, real. Maybe an amazing miracle? And the Insta message earlier today. Also earlier today I had decided to start a homeopathic healing for the cancer again. I hadn't done it for a year or more, but the cancer scar was hurting, getting worse. I was getting scared but wasn't ready to do the big invasive $3,000 surgery that required a plastic surgeon and who knows what else. So I decided to start the treatment and see if I could continue to work with it on my own. Then the healing. I decided to go ahead with the homeopathic treatment anyway because linear time doesn't really exist. It's all just an interconnected series of events happening in the ever-present now, according to the mantis. So, yeah. Dream Journal, February 2nd, 2022. Dreamed I was trying to do a big back bend. I had other women around, all encouraging me. I was visualizing it in my mind, how I would go back and upside down and achieve this big hard back bend, this new ability I had. I was getting ready, but for some reason I took my shirt off to do it. Now my breasts were exposed, and the women who had been around me, supporting me, began to wander off thinking I was weird. I went outside for some reason, feeling really free and happy. Topless, wandering through a quiet neighborhood, big blue spruce trees all around me. My friends were watching me from a distance, appalled. They were worried for me, embarrassed of me. I wasn't afraid. I didn't want to cover my breasts. I finally headed home, and on the way back had to go under an overpass. It got dark, dusk. It was dirty there. A man came out, youngish, 20s, blonde, scary. He had raped and murdered many women. He was brutal and did it just for the pleasure of it, and because he felt righteous. In his mind, he was performing a necessary task and was completely without remorse. He captured me and was taking me somewhere to torture and kill me. There were others there, afraid of him. He was gloating to them about people they love who he'd killed. One person, a woman, brought me into a bathroom in the back and told me to bolt the door from the inside. This woman had been hurt by this guy, loved ones killed. She was strong, big, and powerful. Her brother came up beside her. They had decided they were going to kill this murdering blonde guy. They had a gun. There was some concern between them about whether they could surprise him and pull it off, but actually it was over pretty quickly. I bolted the door, and less than 30 seconds later heard a single shot. It was over. He was dead. This is me breaking in, reporting from current time, March 2023. That dream was the last dream that I ever had about a serial killer, rapist, murderer. Journal entry, March 13th, 2022. Turns out that even if a mantis being healed me somehow of cancer, he's not going to get a chapter in this book. Not even a voice in the afterword. Why? Because even though the events of the cancer healing, which I later independently confirmed 3 separate ways in addition to the healing event itself, which was undeniably, experientially real, did happen in conjunction with a communication with the mantis being, I had also been doing daily healing meditations. I don't want to give him all the credit. Plus, the weird, distressing insectoid thing that lodged itself into one of my etheric bodies is still there, monitoring me. Call me crazy, I don't really care at this point. I may open up communication with the mantis again, but first things first. Things like my nervous system. Don't get me wrong, I'm beyond grateful. The cancer scar doesn't hurt anymore, at all. The sensation of that matrix of cancer in my body is totally gone. But also, I don't think my container is strong enough yet, or ever, to channel, to allow something else to come through me. No. Maybe there will be a communication again someday, but for now I'm just trying to hold it all together. I'm super fucking excited that the write a book directive means that I'm including something like this. A confusing violation which was paradoxically a miraculous healing. Just the cherry on top of the I'm fucking crazy town Sunday that is my life. Part of me wonders though, is this the thing I've been chosen for? The thing that I need not apply to get into? How special to feel chosen. What a slippery slope that specialness is. This much is certain. None of this is over. Something else will happen. I need a minute, though, to get my shit together before anything else, okay? January 2021, they show up in my bedroom. December 2021, on the solstice, a healing, and everything that happened in between. This is my life now. And yes, I can feel the mantis waiting around, which is polite, I guess. Could be worse. Dream Journal, March 22nd, 2022. I dreamed I was in an underground cavern and a flood was coming. I was working to get everyone up the long stone staircases and out to safety. I caught a glimpse of myself in a mirror. I was covered with tattoos. I finally got everyone out and went back to the mirror. Another tattoo crossed the first. It now said, "Lost." To book a one-on-one session with me, visit honeyheart.org.